Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big Australian Catholic welcome to Dr. Edward Treat.
Thank you very much. It is such a thrill to be here. This is my first trip to the ends of the earth, as Charbel said. So I'm so excited to be here in Australia. Thank you for having me. It's been just so wonderful meeting so many good people, so many people on fire in the faith. You see the seeds of faith for a new evangelization that I'm going to continue to pray for, and I can't wait to, God willing, come back and just see the movement here continue to spread. Now, I have to just say one small word here. I know that when people see my name on a program, they see the last name S-R-I, and they're always wondering, what nationality is this guy? And already I've had many of you asking me, are you from India? Are you Sri Lankan? What is that? And I want to share a story. I was in graduate school, and I went out to lunch with a bunch of my friends with an anthropologist, a man with a PhD in anthropology. And he went around the table and quickly identified everyone's ethnic background. He said, oh, you're half French, half Italian. You're half German, you're half Irish. You're half this, half this. And he got everybody in an instant until he came to me. And I completely stumped him. He was looking at me and analyzing, and he could not figure me out. And he finally said, could you please turn your face sideways? I want to examine the shape of your profile. And he says, oh, yes, that's Southern European, Mediterranean. One of your parents must be from Southern France or Italy. And I said, oh, you got me. My mom is from Italy. She was born in a little town in Tuscany, and she came over to America, moved to Chicago after World War II. So I said, what's my other half? And he still could not figure me out. He was really frustrated. I can tell he actually got out of his chair and he walked all around me, analyzing me like this. And I felt like I was under a microscope. And finally he said, could you please open your mouth? I want to look inside and see the shape of your teeth. So I open my mouth, he peers inside, it was like I was at the dentist, and he sees the shape of my teeth. He goes, oh, those incisors give you away. Your father must be from Southeast Asia. It must be either Vietnam, Laos, or Thailand. And I said, oh, you got me, my father's from Thailand. So my mom came to Chicago from Italy after World War II. My father came from Thailand to Chicago to study in the 1960s. They met in the blizzard of 67. That's a story for another time. But being half Italian and half Thai, I grew up with some of the best food in the world. It was awesome. So, you know, it's just a joy, just a surprise that I'm here in Australia and with all of you and being a part of what Parousia Media is doing here is wonderful. And life is full of a lot of surprises. I want to share with you one big surprise I had this last year. They mentioned I do a Rome pilgrimage every year, and I love taking people to get an insider's kind of adventure in Rome. And always one of the big adventures my pilgrims always love is trying to get the front row seats for a papal audience. Now, when you hear about a papal audience, you think, wow, you get to meet the Pope. Well, you're with about tens of thousands of other people. So if you really want to get a chance to get close to the Pope, you've got to get up early, you got to do the right moves and all. And I have a very elaborate plan. We, for about 17 years of doing this pilgrimage, we've led dozens and dozens of groups, and we have 100% track record for getting to the front row. I draw diagrams, there's plays, there's routes, different positions. And this last year, I brought my son, Carl. When my kids turn 9, they get to go on this big trip with Dad. And little Carl had heard about the adventures of trying to get to the front row, and he was so excited. And sure enough, he and I were some of the first people racing into St. Peter's. We got to the front row. We're standing on the chairs. Everyone else from our group is coming in, and we own the first 2 rows in St. Peter's Square for the papal audience. And we're high-fiving each other, taking pictures. We're messaging back home. We did it. And then after a while, you know, we've been up since, 5:30, 6 in the morning, and we're settling down, and now you have to wait about 2 hours for the Pope to come out. And so everyone sits down, and we start to calm down. We're a little tired. And then everyone starts saying something like this, I think I'm going to pray. I'm going to take some time for prayer. And they pull out their Bibles or a little devotional. They're all very pious, but they're not really praying. You know what happens? About 2 minutes into their prayer, they're going like this. And that's what I did. I started dozing off with my Bible. But I woke up to this roar and this cheering. I didn't know what was going on, and all of a sudden I saw everyone pointing over there, and I said, it's Pope Francis. He's coming out 45 minutes early. I'm like, everybody wake up, you don't want to miss the Pope. So we're seeing the Pope, he's coming, he's rounding the corner, coming down the front row. We're getting all excited to see him. We pull out our cameras, we got our videos, and then the Pope stops. And he points at some little baby, and they take the baby over, and he kisses the baby. Like, come on, Pope. Okay, now he's getting closer, and then he stops to take another baby, and we're all like getting all anxious. When's he going to come? Now he's getting really close. I got my camera out, and he's coming right in front of me, and he's right there, and then he stops, and I see him point. And I thought, oh, he's pointing at me. But the next thing I see through my camera is not me. I see my little son Carl being carried over the barricade by a guard and brought into the Pope-mobile. Now, I've done this pilgrimage so many times. I've seen Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict kiss babies before. I've never seen them take a 9-year-old kid. I couldn't believe it. I'm getting this all on my video. And there's the Pope. He kind of taps Carl on the head. He gives him a little kiss on the forehead. He gives him a blessing. I'm getting this all on video. I just can't wait to talk to Carl all about this. But I never got the chance. Because the next thing, if you watch this video, it's on my website, you'll see in the video, all of a sudden, next thing, Pope Francis just takes off with my son. And I'm going, wait, that's my boy. That's what's going on here? Why is Pope Francis driving off with my son? And I'm trying to figure out where he is, and there he is on the Jumbotron. I think he's by the obelisk now. We're trying to figure this all out, and I'm thinking, Pope Francis just kidnapped my boy! And eventually, I'm just waiting, and he's going around 20 minutes. I still don't have my son back, and then I realized, it dawned on me, maybe when the Pope put his hands on him like this, he was giving Carl an ordination. No, just kidding. But eventually they dropped Carl off and we got reunited, but I had never seen anything like it. So life is full of many surprises. Sometimes those surprises are really exciting, really, really joy-filled, like little Carl's 20-minute adventure in the back of the Pope-mobile. But sometimes the surprises take other forms. I asked this question to a group I was speaking to earlier today. Anyone here into gardening? Anyone like gardening? Okay, my mom was an amazing gardener. Growing up in Tuscany, it was just in her blood, I think. It was like the botanical gardens in my backyard. I had all these amazing colorful flowers, fresh fruits and vegetables. It was like Little Italy. It was just amazing. But there's one very important thing I've learned about gardening over the years, and that is this. Gardening is not genetic. Gardening is not genetic. See, my mom's really good at growing things. I'm good at killing things. She's a green thumb. I'm a black thumb. And when I moved to Colorado 11 years ago, I lived next door to a man who was, like my mom, an amazing gardener. He had all these beautiful plants. And on the edge of his property, he was growing these plants, and they came under the fence, and they were over on my side. And I asked him what those plants were, and he said, oh, those are raspberry plants. And I'm thinking, oh no, wow, I've got to take care of these things now. Oh, what do I have to do? And I said, what do I have to do to take care of them? And he just looked at me and said, oh, nothing. They take care of themselves. And I thought, cool, that's my kind of plan. And he said, yeah, they're really hardy. They'll be fine. Well, what happened was those plants started to grow. And in that first year, my kids are loving these raspberry plants. They're looking at the little berries starting to come out. Dad, the berries are coming. Dad, the berries are starting to change color. Dad, they're looking red now. Dad, they're fresh now. Can we eat the berries? Oh, Dad, thank you so much for the raspberry plants. And I'm thinking, shucks, I'm such a good gardener. Well, the next year, my friend moved away, so he wasn't there for me to talk to about my plants. And it was a particularly hot and dry summer in Colorado. We had a great drought, and I could tell halfway through the summer my plants were struggling. They weren't doing that well, and I could just see they're not thriving like last year. And so I figured they must need water, right? They haven't had any rain for like a month, so maybe I'll go start watering. So every morning I got up in the morning and start watering my plants, and I was watering them, and they still were struggling. After a couple weeks, they're starting to turn brown on the leaf, and I thought they must need a lot of water. So I started a double-a-day water treatment plan. Got up in the morning, watered the plants, came home after work in the evening, watered the plants. And after a week of my plan, they still were struggling. They're starting to wilt. And I was out there watering one evening, and then I realized what the real problem was. They needed water, but they needed something else. I saw that there was something attacking my plants. It was something that in the States we call bindweed. Bindweed. I don't know if you have that here in Australia, but do you remember that parable about the weed that chokes the plant? That has new meaning for me. Because all through my garden there was this network of weeds wrapping themselves around the plants and choking the life out of the plants. And these plants needed me to not just give them water, but to watch out for those weeds that were attacking it. In my work, I'm really blessed to get to speak and present in many dioceses in the United States and Europe and now here. And I meet many bishops, I meet many priests, I meet many deacons, religious, I meet many lay educators. And I often hear a very similar story where people will talk about how, this person came to our parish and they're really involved and now they're not practicing their faith anymore. Or, we taught this person, they came to our Catholic high school and we passed on the faith, but they're not going to church anymore. I hear it especially when it comes to RCIA, people who are wanting to become Catholic, and they go through the process, they enter the church on the Easter Vigil. And in the United States, it's just tragic what's happening in RCIA, and I get the sense I'm hearing similar kinds of things here, but in the United States, 1 out of 3 people who go through RCIA stop practicing their faith within 3 to 5 years. And people, I gave them the faith. How come it's not sticking? I hear it more, even more from parents and grandparents who will say things like this. We raised our kids Catholic. We sent them to Catholic schools. We passed on the faith. They got confirmation. But then they got into high school. And they started asking questions. Questions like, why do I need a church? I believe in God. I'm a good person. Why do I need to go to church? I can be spiritual. I don't kill people and rob banks. Why do I need a church? And mom and dad are wondering, well, we passed on the faith. What happened here? And then they go off to university, and maybe their second year at university, they come back home and they're having a meal around the table, and some big hot button moral issue comes up in the culture. And all of a sudden the kid says, well, that's fine for you, mom and dad, but other people, they can choose what they want to do. I wouldn't live that way, but we should be more tolerant. Why is the Catholic Church so judgmental? We shouldn't impose our truth on other people. Everyone should make up their own moral truth for themselves. And mom and dad are wondering, we passed on the faith. What's happening here? And then they graduate from university and they get a job and they fall in love and they start living together. And living together, and living together. And mom and dad start talking about this, and they say, hey, have you ever thought about getting married? And they're like, whoa, marriage? Marriage, why bother? We like each other, we've got good jobs, we get along. Why do I need some certificate from some church? How many of you have heard stories about that like that before? It's all over our culture, isn't it? It's all over our culture. You see, in our world today, we are not living in a neutral environment. It's not just that we're not living in a Christian culture anymore. It's not neutral. It's actually a hostile culture. It's a culture that is undermining the faith life of the people we love and care about. It's undermining our own faith life. And it's not enough just to pass on the facts of the faith. My plants needed more than water. My plants needed me to watch out for the weeds that were going to choke the life out of them. And the same is true. There are many weeds out in our secular culture, different views of life, different views of what life is about, what makes us happy, what is love, what is true beauty, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what is sex about, what is marriage about. We're constantly being bombarded with all these other views and visions for life. If we don't address those weeds in the culture, our faith life is going to suffer. It's not enough to pass on the facts of the faith. If all I do is pass on to my kids, all the truths, orthodox truths, there's 12 apostles, 10 commandments, 7 sacraments, 3 persons of the Trinity. If that's all I do, my kids are going to have almost zero chance of that faith surviving in the cultural environment in which we're all living today. We've got to go after the weeds with them. We need to address the weeds. We need to talk to our children, our grandchildren, our family, our friends about those weeds. It's kind of like immunizations, when you get an immunization, it's giving you kind of your body a sense of what the disease might look like, so that when your body, if it ever does encounter the real disease, it knows how to attack it. Well, we need to do that with our kids. Are you spiritually inoculating your kids? Do you talk to your kids about what's out there in the culture, so that then when they encounter this, they're ready to go? What I want to share with you just this evening are just a few thoughts, a few reflections on some of those cultural weeds that are out there. I don't have time to go through a lot. I'm going to pick just 3 of them, if we have enough time to go through just 3 of them. All right, so we're going to go through a couple. What are some of those cultural weeds? One of them I want to look at is simply the culture's view of love. What is love? It's been so fun I've talked about this in different settings in my few days here in Australia. So I'm on my 3rd day. I think this is my 15th talk, Charbel, in 3 days. I think about that. So it's been really fun talking about this. But our culture's view of love is so skewed. It's so off. And we need to talk about love and what real love is, because the way we use love today, the word love, we use it so loosely, don't we? We say I love in so many different ways. Like I can say I love coffee, I love ice cream, I love pizza, I love steak, I love rugby, and I love this kind of music, and I love this team. But if I use that word that way with all these different things, then I turn to my wife and I say, hey, and I love you too, Beth. What does that really mean? I think when the world today, our secular world, uses the language of love, I think it means, when I say I love this, it means it does something for me. I get something out of this. That's what we mean in our world, sadly, when we say I love. So take, for example, I love coffee. Any coffee drinkers out there? I love coffee. I love the smell of coffee. I love to hear it brewing in the morning. I love holding a warm cup of coffee. I love the taste of coffee. I love how it wakes me up in the morning. It does something for me. Or I love a good steak. You ever eat a good steak? Love a good juicy steak. It just satisfies my craving, satisfies my taste buds. It does something for me. But here's the deal. Once I'm done with that coffee, and once I'm done with that steak, the love affair is over, and I'm moving on to the next thing that's going to do something for me. That view of love is not the kind of love that we want to apply to persons, to apply to our family, to our friends, and especially a marriage. Because real love is not about just what you do for me. Real love is outward looking. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, quoting the angelic doctor, St. Thomas Aquinas, gives us the authentic definition of love. Real love is to will the good of another. It's outward looking. It's seeking what's best for someone else. But our culture's view of love is, what do you do for me? What do you do for me? When young people in our world today fall in love, it's all about what you do for me. You make me feel so good. I get this powerful rush of emotions from you. You make me feel good, romantic feelings, or you make me feel not lonely anymore. I'm tired of being alone, and I'm just so grateful to have a companion. You do something for me. Or I like looking at you. I like looking at your body. I like the sexual pleasure I get from you. It's like that song that's popular right now. You know that song that says, I'm in love with your body. How sad. So many young women grow up in our culture today thinking that's what love is. I mean, I'm not lovable as a person. So many young women think it's, no one would ever really love me for who I am. The best I can hope for is if I can accent my body and dress in a certain way, I can get a boy's attention, so at least they'll love my body. That's our culture's view of love. We've got to talk to our kids about what real love is. Real love is outward looking. But I would say, how many of you have all heard of theology of the body? I bet all of you, right? Most of you have heard of theology of the body, those great lectures from John Paul II about love and man and woman, sexuality, marriage. Young people today, they grow up many Catholics are excited about theology of the body. I was just down at the University of Notre Dame, my first night here, and there were 100 young adults and university students that came out, and they're studying the theology of the body, and it's so encouraging. I wish I had that when I was at university. But so even they who really want to have a committed, good, strong marriage, they themselves are breathing in stuff from the culture. And we talked about it. Some of them admitted, yeah, I fall into this habit, They can get a very hyper emotional, romanticized view of love. Now they'll cloak it in Christianity and Catholicism and say we're going to have a really serious relationship. We're not going to do any dating. We're going to court. It's very serious. And we're going to discern. We'll do 27 novenas to make sure this is really the right relationship. And God bless them. It's really inspiring because they want to have a Catholic wedding and a Catholic marriage, and they're trying to follow the right principles. But they can sometimes idealize what marriage is really all about. They'll think, we're getting married, and we'll pray every night, and every night after dinner we'll go sit by a fire, and we'll hold hands, and we'll sip some good red wine together. And every night after dinner, when we're by the fire, holding hands, sipping good red wine, we'll just stare into each other's eyes. And we'll whisper sweet quotes from theology of the body to each other. It's going to be really special. And I can ask married folks out there, does your marriage look like that? Is that what your daily married life looks like? God bless you when you get those moments, you get a nice date night, but can I show you, this is what marriage looks like in my family's household. I come home after a long day of work, and my wife is busy cooking in the kitchen. There's a big mess all on the table. Kids, come on, let's go, Mom. Clear off the table. Let's go bring the food out. Let's set the table. Okay, everybody bless us, oh Lord. Okay, great. We're going to serve the food now. We're serving the food. Okay, ready for about to eat. Oh, you need a drink. Let me go get you a drink, okay? All right. Oh, you need a drink too. You could have told me earlier. That's okay. We'll get you a drink. Okay, come over here. Okay, now we're going to finally get to eat. Oh, you want seconds? Well, Mom and Dad haven't had first, but that's okay. Here you go. Okay, so finally we get to eat, and then some kid spills his cup. Now, what do the kids do when they spill the cup? No, they don't cry. They go like this. They go, get a towel! Come on, let's clean it up, guys. Okay. All right, now we're done. We do our closing prayer in a minute. We're gonna clean up and do the chores. Okay. All right. You go do your piano lesson. Okay. How's your violin? Oh, you need me to help you with your math. Okay. Let me help you. Here's how it goes. Oh, you need me to sign something for your teacher? Okay. Oh, wait. Hey, the baby's upstairs naked. Could somebody give the baby a bath and get some clothes on her after? Okay. So we're gonna go do that, and then okay, now can everybody get their pajamas on, and let's all brush your teeth? Yeah, no, with toothpaste on. Yeah, toothpaste. Okay, great. So now, all right, everyone come on down. We're going to do a little prayer before we go to bed, okay? Now, Mom and Dad are really tired. It's been a long day, and you've got an early morning, so it's time to go to bed now, okay? And you all stay in your rooms, all right? And all of you, yeah, stay in your, no. Go stay in your room, okay, thank you. Stay in your room! Okay, and then, by the time everyone's finally quiet, it's like 10:45 at night. My wife and I just make it back to the sanctuary of our bedroom, and we plop on the bed. And I turn to Beth and I say, honey, are you doing okay? She goes, yeah, I'm doing okay. You doing okay, honey? Yeah, I'm doing okay. All right, good night. Yeah, good night. That's love. I'm convinced love and the reality of marriage and family life, love is all about the corporal works of mercy. I'm constantly clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, visiting those in the prison of time out. I'm constantly doing all this stuff. But real love is not Hollywood love, staring into each other's eyes. You do something for me. You make me feel so good. If that's what love is, then what happens, like that old song, when you lost that love and feeling, well then, whoa, the relationship's over. I've got to go to the new thing that's going to do something for me. That's not a true foundation for love. Real love is not gazing into each other's eyes with all these powerful romantic emotions like the movies. No, real love is husband and wife standing shoulder to shoulder and looking outward to serve something bigger than themselves. shoulder to shoulder, looking outward to serve something bigger than themselves, whether it's their community, the poor, their parish, and when they're blessed with children, serving those children 24/7. That's real love. We need to talk to our kids about what real love is and contrast it with what the artificial views that the world is offering. We need to talk to our grandchildren. We need to talk to the people in our parishes about love. Amen? All right, let's take a look at a second key point here. I just want to briefly consider morality. Let's think about morality. We live in a day and age where people say we shouldn't talk about morality. You shouldn't be so judgmental. You shouldn't tell other people what's right or wrong. Everyone should make up their own truth. How do we talk about morality in a culture of moral relativism? It's really hard. And again, these are some of the weeds that we need to pass on and talk about with our children, because this is what they're going to face in the culture today. And we've got to get ourselves really clear on this. One big point I'll say, I'm going to give like three sub-points on morality here. One is law equals love. Can you all say that with me? Say it one more time. The reason I want you to repeat that is because that's the last thing people think about when they think about the moral law. When they hear about the moral teachings of the church, they think of it as something oppressive, restrictive. The last thing they think about is love. But what we need to do is help our children, help the people in our life, and help ourselves remember that everything the Catholic Church teaches about morality is ultimately all about love. It comes from the God who is love, and he freely chooses to tell us about the plan for our lives so that we can be happy, so we can experience more love and share it with others. Everything is all about love. Sometimes we enter into these debates and we get philosophical and abstract, and don't get me wrong, we need to do that. But first and foremost, let's frame the discussion. Everything we're talking about is ultimately about love. I don't care if the issue is abortion or the environment or gender identity or care for the poor or the definition of marriage. Everything needs to be framed in the context of love, in our culture today especially. How would I do that? First, I would highlight that the moral law comes from God's heart. As a father, I have to give law in my home. I give certain rules in my home. If I see a child ready to go into a busy street, I tell them, don't go into that street. I give a law. Why do I give that law? Don't go in the busy street. Is it because I want to control you? No, that's not what this is about. Or is it because I just want to test you? Don't go out there. Why, Dad? Don't ask why. Just obey. I want to see if you'll submit to my fatherly authority. No, I'm not on a power trip with my kids. That's not what this is about. It's because I know they'll get hurt. We have to see that our Heavenly Father gives the moral law out of love. He made us. He knows how we work. He knows if we do certain things with our lives, we're going to be happy, and other things, if we do them, we're not going to be happy. So think of the moral law as like the divine instruction manual. You get an iPhone or you get a computer, and it comes with an instruction manual and says, do not use your computer in water, because it'll destroy the computer. The manufacturer puts that in there. They know how the computer will work or not work. And if you go swimming with your laptop, it's just not going to function well. Well, God is the divine manufacturer. He knows how we work. He knows if we live a certain way, we'll be happy. But if we go a different way in our lives, we're going to ruin ourselves and ruin other people. The psalmist in Psalm 119, verse 105 says, your word, O Lord, is a lamp to my feet, a light to my path. Law equals love. The Father gives his law because he loves us. He made us a certain way, and he wants us to experience love and give love. That's what the moral law is ultimately all about. We got to keep that in mind. Another thing we have to really keep in mind is the big difference between making a judgment and judging someone's soul. I really want to hammer this point home with you tonight, because so many people today are so scared to say that there's anything that's right or wrong. They think if I disagree with someone, that means I hate them. We have to see, I disagree does not mean I hate you. And please do not force me to give up my convictions. I can be friends with you. I can authentically love you, even though we may disagree on a certain matter. That's just something our world just doesn't get. You know, they want to silence our Christian witness, and they're going to hammer us. They're going to beat us down and say, don't be so intolerant. Don't be so judgmental. Have you ever noticed, by the way, how the secular media, you know, I doubt that many people in the secular media regularly read the Bible. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt that they're regularly reading the Bible. Or your secular friends, are they regularly doing Bible study? I doubt it. But there's one Bible verse they all know. There's one Bible verse all those newscasters know. They may not know a lot, but anytime a moral issue comes up, they're going to quote that verse. They're going to quote Jesus right back to us, and they're going to say, oh, why are you saying that about what's morally right or wrong? Don't you remember what Jesus said? Jesus said, don't judge. And we as Christians here, they're like, oh, they're quoting Jesus against me. I don't know what to do. I can't disagree with Jesus. I don't know what to say, so I'll just go over here and hide. No! We need to push back. Pope Benedict said we have to resist this imposition of moral relativism upon us. And we've got to be very clear. Just because I make a judgment doesn't mean I'm judging someone's soul. There's a big difference. Let's walk through this for a moment. Is it okay to make a judgment? Is it okay to do that? Can I use my mind and make a judgment? Is that okay? You know, when Jesus condemned in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 7, he said, don't judge. He wasn't saying never use your mind, never make a judgment. He was talking about never judge someone's soul, never condemn a soul. A soul's spiritual status before God is between them and God alone. We never play the role of God like that. But he wasn't saying don't ever make judgments. I mean, the Bible's very clear. Many other times in the Bible commands us to make judgments. St. Paul says in his letter to the Corinthians, the spiritual man judges all things. We must judge. So if I look outside and I see it's pouring rain, can I use my mind and make a judgment? I think I'm going to get an umbrella. Is that okay to do? How many of you think that's okay? Am I a mean, intolerant, hateful person if I do that? No. God gave me a mind. He wants me to use it. It's okay to make judgments. But I'm going to go a step further now, and I want to see if any of you are willing to go this far. Is it okay to use our mind and make a judgment about someone else's actions? Is that okay? But Jesus said, don't judge. Are you sure? So let's say, for example, I see my little daughter, again, getting ready to run into that busy street. Can I use my mind to make a judgment that's not good for her? That she could get hurt? Is that okay? Am I condemning her and saying, if you go in the street, you're going to hell? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not judging her soul. No, I'm just using my mind. I can see that's not good for her. I'm going to go one more step further, and I don't know if you're going to feel comfortable with this. Tell me what you think. Is it okay to use our minds to make a judgment about someone else's moral actions? Is that okay to do? Let's say here at one of the universities in Sydney, there's a young gal who is a student there, and she's sleeping around with one man after another after another. Is it okay for me to use my mind and make a judgment? That's not good for her. Can I do that? Can I use my mind and make a judgment? She's not going to be happy. She deserves so much more than that. She's never going to find the love she's looking for this way. Can I use my mind to make a judgment like that? Absolutely. Can I go over and condemn her and saying, you're going to go to hell? No. That's her spiritual status before God is between her and God alone. I don't know her background. I don't know her situation. I don't know her whole life story. Who am I to judge, Pope Francis would say, and rightly so. Because I don't know all of that. I just see, what's going on Friday nights, maybe, for example. I happen to notice that. But I don't see the whole life story. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this poor gal came from a really dysfunctional family and never experienced authentic love. She doesn't know what that even looks like. Maybe she was sexually abused throughout her life. Maybe she was trained by people that this is what it means to be a liberated woman. Use your sexuality this way. I don't know all that. Only God sees that whole story. He's the one that stands in judgment, not me. I can't play the role of God, and I never should try to. But here's the key. If I love this woman, if I care about her at all, let's say she's a close friend, she's a family member, she's my niece, should I ever say something to her about this? Should I ever say something to her? What's love? What's the definition of love? It's to seek what's best for the other person, to will the good of another. And if I know that this isn't good for her. Should I ever try to talk to her about it? Doesn't mean I have to leave this banquet and call my niece. Now, hey, I know what you're doing, and Edward Street told me to tell you what you're doing is wrong. I'm not talking about that. But should I should I try to have a conversation at some point? Should I seek to talk to this woman about this? Not if I'm a stranger. That'd be weird. I show up at her door. Hi, you don't know me, but you're in mortal sin. That's just weird. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if God has put her in your life, should you try to say something to her at some time? Maybe not today, maybe not this week, maybe not this month, but you're praying for her, you're sacrificing for her, you're hoping that she'll see the truth of human love and what God wants for her. Our world today is trying to silence our witness. Our relativistic culture is trying to get you to feel guilty about loving people. Because real love seeks what's best for the other person. And our culture is trying to say, oh, no, you're mean if you do that. I can't tell you how many young adults, how many young professionals, how many university students have come up to me after I've been talking about this and saying, thank you so much, because I've been thinking to be a loving person, I should say nothing. You've helped me to see that to be a loving person, I should actually try to say something, because that's what real love is. We have to do this, because real love is not indifference. Indifference is not love, and that's what relativism trains us to do. If I see my daughter getting ready to run in that busy street and I go like this, well, if that works for you, I wouldn't do that if I was a 3-year-old, but hey, I don't want to impose my views on you. Is that love? Indifference is not love. But our relativistic culture is isolating us, getting us to be very individualistic, shunning, as Pope Francis says, shunning our responsibility to care for the people in our lives. God has put people in our lives, and we all just start saying, well, for me, this is wrong, but if other people want to do it, that's okay for them. Let's not make that for me move. Morality is not about just for me. No, there's a moral truth outside of us that God has given us. And that's the standard for my life. If all morality is just about for me, for me, abortion's wrong, but for other people, if they wanted to have abortion, that's okay for them. If that's my view of morality, then I no longer have a moral compass to guide me. Because I now take matters about like divorce, remarriage, gender identity, definition of marriage, care for the poor. I put all those things on the same plane as my favorite flavor of ice cream or my favorite sports team. For me, I like chocolate more than vanilla. For me, I like soccer more than rugby. But I could change my opinion. I can change my moral life. That's what happens when we follow for me kind of morality. There is a truth that God's given us, and we need to share it. One little last thing on this point. I want to give you one little tool that you can keep in your pocket. So the next time one of your coworkers at work, or maybe one of your family members at a family reunion says something like, why is the Catholic Church so judgmental? Or why are you so intolerant? What do you say in those moments? I can give you a little one-liner. Next time that happens, someone says, why are you being so judgmental? Just come right back and say, excuse me, are you judging me? I love that, because our secular friends aren't used to the Christians playing the don't judge card. But more than that, if that little move helps us to get to a more fundamental level, it helps us to live out what Pope Benedict was telling us, to resist the imposition of relativism on us. Just imagine the conversation going something like this. Why are you being so judgmental? Excuse me, are you judging me? And then your friend will probably back off and go, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't, because the worst thing you can do in the world is be judgmental in their eyes. And so they're very nervous about that. But they'll probably say something like this, but I don't know, I was feeling like you were being judgmental because you were saying that this is wrong for everybody and not just for you. And once they make that move, now you've got them. Now you can come back and just say, well, excuse me, my friend, it sounds like you don't believe that there's moral truth, a moral standard for everyone. It sounds like you believe in moral relativism. You believe everyone just makes up their own morality. And it sounds like those are the glasses you wear, the lenses through which you view the world and you view human life. And you have free will, my dear friend, and you're capable of wearing those glasses if you want. That doesn't make sense to me. You haven't convinced me of that yet. I think that's a strange way of looking at the world, but you're free to look at the world however you want. But the one thing I'm going to ask you, my dear friend, is this. Please do not force me to wear those glasses. Please don't force me to follow your relativism. Again, if you want to have faith that there's no moral structure to the universe, if you want to have faith that there is no moral truth, if you want to have faith in moral relativism, you're free to do that. But please do not impose your faith in relativism on me. We need to resist the culture of moral relativism, because that's what's happening. Relativism is not a neutral position. They're not the moral Switzerland of the world out there. It's a certain way of looking at the world. It is a certain philosophy, and they're trying to impose their philosophy on us, and we need to just gently and kindly and lovingly but firmly push back. But then what I would do is, and then you can actually have a fundamental discussion, because oftentimes we're just talking about abortion, we're talking about the definition of marriage, all these things out here, but there's a whole fundamental level of worldview that we really need to engage. We're just going to end up just shouting back and forth if we can't get down here. And that's what this allows us to do, because then we could sit back and say, but you know what, I don't understand relativism, but I'd love to hear why you think that makes sense, and let them do the talking. Because if they have to explain their own moral relativism, they're going to quickly feel, ooh, I'm skating on thin ice, because it doesn't really make sense. And too often we as Catholics are on the defensive and always explaining. Just let them do the talking, and then just ask them some questions. So you believe in that for me morality? Well, can I ask you, if someone said, well, for me, kidnapping children's okay, would that make it okay? Or if someone said, for me, raping women is okay, would that make it okay? Just start asking them questions. And they'll feel the insecurity of their own positions and might be more open to an alternative view. So let's talk more about what real morality is all about. Now, I would love to talk more about a third point I really, really wanted to get into. Why do I need a church? Can't I just be spiritual? But we're out of time. I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to just pause here and close with this. You all know, and I don't have to tell you this, there are so many of these cultural weeds out there, and we've got to go after them. And an organization like Parousia Media is doing so much to help us with the resources, with the events, the conferences, so much here in Australia to equip you to engage those weeds, to engage them first and foremost for your own mind and heart, but for your family, for your children, for the people at your parish. And they're doing so much to help us. And I think about Charbel as I've gotten to know him over the last, we met many years ago at EWTN, but we've talked a lot on the phone. He was just out in Denver. We visited just in the last week, and now spending 24/7 with him the last several days here. I've seen firsthand the incredible sacrifices that he's made. I mean, he's out till midnight every night this week. He's barely able to see his family. And he's not just in the background. He's there. I mean, he's unloading his car. He's setting up the table. He's making sure, taking care of everybody. And he has the weight of responsibility of not just caring for his own family, but caring for his staff and their families. And this is a man that took great risks. He was bold. He was daring. And he trusted in God and made many sacrifices. And look at the fruit it's already been bearing over the last 10, 15 years. And now you're already getting a glimpse of where this is going in the future. EWTN and many other partnerships on the horizon. This is so exciting. But Charbel took risks. He trusted in God, and he was generous with his life and made sacrifices. And many of the people on his team are doing the same thing. They're not doing this for fame, and they're not doing it for money. They're not doing it to have some lustrous career. That's clearly not the case. There's many other things these men and women could be doing if that's what they wanted. They're doing it for the love of Jesus. And you've all been blessed. I've seen, I just got to tell you, a personal testimony. I've talked to people who've told me how this ministry has changed their life. I just met a couple last night that came up after the event. We were talking about marriage, and a couple came up and just admitted, "You saved our marriage. This event saved our marriage." And they went on and shared the struggles they've been having and then how this opened up. And that's just one of 150,000 other stories that are going on there. If you care about marriage, certainly vote no coming up here. But if you care about marriage, support Parousia Media, because you'll change marriages, not just in the law. You'll change marriages, one soul, one couple at a time. You'll change families, and you'll plant seeds for the future and the renewal and the new evangelization here in Australia. So please, I want to encourage you, be generous, take risks, Be sacrificial in what you can offer to support Parousia Media. Please know you're all in my prayers. It's been such a delight to be here with you this evening and be here in this wonderful country of Australia. My prayers are with you. I ask if you could please pray for me and for my family. My wife Elizabeth is back home with our 8 children. She's making her own sacrifices to support me. To support me in my mission here. So I greatly appreciate if you could remember us in prayer. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.